I love great conversations. Hi, my name is Angel Jones. Thank you for joining me on 12-minute convos where I help you create a brand of your own unique, real self. Listen in as I have conversations with amazing people from all over the world. Good night, Eric Trules. How are you going on this wonderful, beautiful night?
It is in Los Angeles 3:05 p.m. So we still have daylight here, Andrew.
Yeah. Oh, how I wish. Oh, how I wish. Well, it's a great pleasure to connect with you. It's 7:05 here in the PM, so it's evening here. But tell me, which of your talents, Eric, do you think is responsible for us connecting at this particular time in life?
Well, I saw that question. It has something to do with me being a podcaster at this moment in my life. I don't mean this very moment, but the last year and a half. But it has perhaps me being a storyteller and a traveler.
Yeah, most definitely.
If those are talents, maybe that's what's led me to you.
Yeah, I think it's your posture in the midst of all that you've been doing. I think is the talent.
My posture.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, I think your posture is one of humility and one of constant learning. Like it seems that way. So all right. So I didn't get to listen to your podcast, right? But what I did get to listen is a conversation you had with a gentleman who seemed to know a lot about your history. Like he explained where Trules, the name, came from, and you all were going on, and it's as though like you were friends forever. Do you know of the podcast I'm talking about?
No.
Okay. I think he came. I think he came to your studio to do the podcast. Actually,
yes, that's possible. Could Mike Siegel from the Travel Tales podcast?
Yes, that is it. On
okay,
point.
Good.
Yeah.
All right, good.
Yeah, that definitely, like, if I have someone that could interview me the way that guy interviewed you, I think that's sealed there. That's beautiful.
He, right off the bat, seemed to know who I was, where I was from, what generation I was from, what part of New York I was from. Yeah. And it struck me. I felt like he pinned me like a fly to a map.
Yeah, most definitely. Even with the Chicago and you going there, and he's calling out the places. So that was definitely fascinating to listen to. Who did you learn the skill of showing up the way you are, Eric?
I think it's long learned and hard earned. I was a suburban kid who was not happy in the late 60s, and I took the road less traveled and became an artist. So that meant disconnecting from all my schooling and brain, and I became a modern dancer, then a professional clown, and then a theater maker and a storyteller and a filmmaker. So each time I've almost had to start over from scratch to reinvent myself in a new artistic world. But self-expression and creativity were always the most important things to me, because those are the things I weren't given or educated, or I didn't know who I was for the first 20 years of my life. So it was a strong urge to find that. And it's something I've tried to pass on in my life.
At any point, or at which point, if you would, was it really painful?
My first real cutting my umbilical, that's my dog barking, my lovely dog. Timed it for the podcast recording, just the way it should happen. When I first left home after college, that was really the time I cut my umbilical cord. And I stopped speaking to my parents and to all my friends and everyone I knew. And I moved into the bowels of Lower Manhattan, into the alternative art world. And I was so daunted, afraid, intimidated that I stopped speaking altogether for about 3 months. I was so afraid, and life seemed so frightening to me to make this change from normal to far down the road less traveled. I think that was a really difficult time.
Will you do it again if you had to?
Sure. I don't know any other way. I've constantly been reinventing myself as an artist in a different field. And now I've just recently retired at age 70, and I just adopted my nephew from Indonesia. So I'm a first-time father at age 70 with my Indonesian wife. So I've always been taking chances.
Wow, that's intriguing. Given the route that you've traveled and the pain thereof, most definitely the benefits as well, why will you continue to repeat the skills that make Eric Trules?
I don't know any other way. I sometimes think I also married late in life to an immigrant, a woman from Indonesia, and she has the American dream of owning a home and planning a future. And so sometimes during this last 17 years of marriage, it's made me question why I wasn't more practical or I wasn't a better planner. But I wasn't, and anything I ever planned never really worked out. And I sort of agreed with John Lennon, life is what happens while you're waiting for your plans to work out. So I've been an improviser, and I ended up teaching improvisation at USC, University of Southern California, for 31 years. And I guess that's been my job, role, posture, as you say, in life.
Where's the best place for someone to connect with you, Eric?
Probably on my homepage, erictrules.com. That's ERICTRULES.com. And if you want to listen to my podcast, you can see all the episodes in the library by putting /podcast.
Love it. Well, Eric, please do tell me one other thing that you've done consistently over the last 3 years.
I play tennis 3 times a week.
Wow.
I've played ever since I was young, but to play 3 times a week really keeps me healthy and gets my head out of my self and my cobwebs and gets the adrenaline and the endorphins running. And it really creates a different energy in my life, and I really appreciate it.
Why would you suggest to someone out there, someone who's having 1,000 conversations, right, to do what you've done by getting out there?
Because I think we're all born creative, expressing human beings. I think it's part of the human fabric. And unfortunately, we aren't educated, and many of our families and parents don't tell us that. And we end up conforming and living by conventional rules, and we prescribe ourselves, but with our choices, to end up in these little boxes. And that's not a place, that's not a healthy place for a human being who has needs and urges and uniqueness. So I want everybody to find their own voice and discover their own passion and take the road less traveled and take some risks in life, because not only can you do that with actual traveling, but you have to do that with life as well.
Well, amazing audience. We are live with Eric Trules. Again, he is the podcast host of E-Travels with E-Trules, and you can connect with him on erictrules.com. Just side note, he is the associate professor of theater practice, right, with USC. Eric, let's switch gears for a moment now, and let me invite you into my time machine that is surrounded with beautiful, warm, blue Caribbean water. Eric, what is your earliest childhood memory?
I think it's sliding down a hay chute with Huey Sigmund in Westbury, New York, and it was exhilarating.
How old do you think you were?
5.
Wow. So why do you think this memory is so clear?
Because I think it was my first experience of freedom, my favorite word in the English language, just being out of control and the chute taking me somewhere where I wouldn't know, and having that thrill of the unknown and the scare of the unknown. It was fun.
That's intriguing. Well, can I offer an interpretation to the thought picture you created in my mind?
Sure.
I love the idea of what it felt like, and I'm guessing here for you to go down in the metaphoric sense of stepping away from the social norms of your family and the joy and elation that it did bring about eventually. It's fascinating at 5 years old how you connected to that, right? Like you had to go down on a slide, right? And to
guess so,
yeah, to see
launch myself into the universe,
exactly,
into the
right?
universe.
Yeah. It's just fascinating. What's intriguing as well is that there was someone with you that you were enjoying it with.
I do remember this boy. He was 6, and he lives in Los Angeles, and he's still part of my life. I doubt he remembers that hay shoot, but we do remember many other childhood memories.
That's great. If we fast forward to when you were 12 years old, what was your favorite song?
Oh, my favorite song. Let's see. So that was 1959. It was still before the Beatles. Otherwise, I would choose a Beatles song. Some rock and roll song like Little Richard or Chuck Berry, or Come Stay With Me by the Fleetwoods. Old doo-wop rock and roll.
Yeah, love it, love it. All right, Eric. Well, hey, we've arrived at our destination. But before we get off of this time machine, there's a small declaration form. So it's yes or no, possibly a bit more. We're going to move pretty quickly, just like down that slide. Are you ready, Eric?
I'm ready.
Eric, have you chosen someone to pass on your skills to?
I have. That's an easy question for me. Being this first-time dad of my Indonesian nephew from the third world, I'm teaching him English and math and picking him up at school every day and feeding him and dressing him. And he's clearly the focus of my legacy. I never had anyone before. So my wife was something like that, but now I have a 10-year-old boy.
Wow. So you have your wife, you are married, you have a 10-year-old nephew now that is taking the mark of son. Do you believe in God?
No.
Well, do you have an inner circle of friends?
I do.
I'm intrigued to know. TV. Do you watch TV for 3 hours a day?
I do not watch any TV.
Right.
I stopped watching TV when I was in high school. The last series I watched was The Fugitive with David Jansen.
Wow.
Which many people probably have never heard of. But
yeah, tell me about screen time. Tell me about screen time, the phone and or the computer. Do you spend more than 8 hours a day or less than 8 hours a day on that?
Less than 8 hours a day.
Tell me, my friend, do you have a statement that represents who you are, your own unique great statement?
I don't have one, but I told you I'm an improviser, so I'll make up a temporary one. Something to do that we human beings, and I, Eric Trules, aspire to be unique and express ourselves through our creativity and self-expression, and finding our own path and our own road and our own voice and making our unique contribution to the planet and the human race are number one on my list. And I propose we humans disconnect from politics and war and borders and separation and fear and terrorism, and pursue what we all have in common inside us.
Love it. Eric, you are amazing. I do appreciate your time. Before you leave, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
I hope that the audience is amazing. I hope maybe this conversation will lead them to listening to some of my sound immersive travel podcasts on eTravels with eTrules, easy to find on the web, and that would be great. It's nice to have met you all the way in Trinidad, and peace and blessings to you.
Peace and blessings to you as well. Eric Trules, thank you for being on what is inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones.
One love.
Thank you for being on 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. Stay tuned for more from our advertisers.
Diabetes is a mountain pandemic. It's a disease that's not acute but chronic. Similar to this rhyming method, I have simplified the definition, the signs and symptoms, and the complications of diabetes for both adults and children in my books, Poems for Patients, A Focus on Diabetes, and The ABCs of Diabetes for Children. These books are available on Amazon.com, and for more information, you can visit my website, poemsbyaj.com. That's poemsbyag.com.